Welcome back to another episode of Believe It, Achieve It. Today's a really special episode because I have three of my really good friends with me. I don't know what I would do without them, and I am really honored that they are on the show today, sharing nuggets of wisdom, some of the things that have kept us going, sharing our ups and downs, and how the spirit of friendship has gotten us through this year. So, in no particular order, one of my first guests is Antonia Dawes. Antonia is a lecturer at King's College London. She researches and teaches on racism and militarism from an anti-racist and feminist political perspective. Her book, Race Talk, has just been published by Manchester University Press and is available as a free ebook. She has also written for Open Democracy and New Humanist magazine. Also with me today is my dear friend Omowumi. Omowumi is a travel and tourism expert with over 12 years experience in human resource management, as well as travel and logistics management across industries. She is the founder and CEO of nuSafiri Hospitality, which comprises of the nuSafiri experience, focused on luxury bespoke travel, and nuSafiri Consulting, which is focused on human resource management within the hospitality industry. She is also a co-founder of Vati, a virtual party concierge focused on organizing virtual experiences through various online platforms to leverage the times. And last, but by no means least, is my dear friend Rav. Rav is a diversity champion, creating opportunities for women in technology, careers, and leadership. She is founder of Structured People, a tech business that helps organizations attract, recruit, and retain talent. She is also founder of Kijiko, an app that connects like-minded women and provides mentoring and support to women of all ages, building their confidence and knowledge so they can reach their highest potential. I am so excited to share my amazing friends with you. I really hope you enjoy the episode. And let's get into it. Okay, welcome back everyone to another episode of Believe It, Achieve It. Today is a very, very special episode. I have three of my dearest friends and I'm staring at the screen and I just can't believe that you ladies are here today. I mean, who would have imagined that we would be doing this one day? Omowumi, I've known you since I was 9. Antonia, we met on the dance floor at university. And Rav, I've known you since I started my entrepreneurial journey, and what a journey it has been. And I guess the reason why I thought an episode like this was important, just with everything that's going on in the world, friendship has been, quite honestly, what's gotten me through. And all of you have played a pivotal role in, first of all, keeping me sane. So thank you. Thank you so much. But I think, over the years, I think it's really made me realize how important friendship is. And, friendships come and go, but I think with three of you, especially, like, stood the test of time. And I wanted to explore that. And I wanted people who perhaps might be feeling a bit disconnected in this time, hopefully that this will inspire them to reach out to friends who maybe they haven't spoken to in a long time. Because I do think we need it now more than ever. And the weird thing is, I was just saying, three of you have not met. And Rav, you're up in Bristol. Omowumi, you're in Lagos. And Antonia, you're in London. So we see a lot, but we've never all been in the same room. And I guess you've all seen different versions of me. I'm sure we'll be swapping notes at some point. But yeah, I think just reflecting on 2020, maybe we'll start with you, Omowumi. What's it been like for you?
2020 has been, it's been hectic, It's been very trying, very testing in every way. Mentally, it's been very trying. And I think one of the things that's been most, that basically has just kept me going, really is one of the things is friendship, really. Is being able to talk and, say, okay, this is what's going on with me. It's being able to be grateful
Yes.
that, that you have like loved ones around. And I don't mean physically, I mean just that you have loved ones, that you're alive,
Yeah.
that you can share, that you can talk. So it's been really challenging, really, but I've just tried to focus on that gratitude, and I'm just being, just trying to find that peace in the middle of this, what has seemed like a storm,
Yeah. And I
through
guess
all.
to add context, you had a very much in-person business, and you've had to
Exactly.
to shift that to
Yes.
digital. I mean, I can't even imagine what's going through your head when that's actually happening. And I mean, when did it hit you that you were going to have to make that
Okay.
switch?
So I would say March. March was tough because we had a lot of cancellations. That was when the lockdown like hit. And for a travel company, it was kind of like, what are we gonna do? People were asking for money. All the like destination celebrations that we had planned, like we literally had something every month this year. So it
So
was supposed to be
people,
like.
they paid you already, and they're suddenly asking for refunds.
Exactly, exactly. Because, you only do,
Wow.
well, for us, we do part of the work, and then the rest of the payment comes when people actually go. And
Yeah.
they weren't going. So everyone was just asking for money back. And that was like, I was just like, wow, like it was
Wow.
really, really hard, actually, very hard. And then, so we went through March like that, April like that. And then in May, that was when the other part of the business came, which was the virtual party planning
Yes.
company, and that was really like a lifesaver because it had been really dark, for the first like 2 months, I would say. And then that was like light, it was like, oh, this is possible. And oh, guess what? You can not only do this for yourself, because it was for my husband's 40th that, that's how it started. And
Ah,
I don't know if you remember. And then
yes.
and then after that, it was like, if you could do this for yourself, oh, why don't you do it for someone else? Give someone that hope. Like, no one's going out, but let them know that, hey, it's possible. You can still
You
have
can
your.
have fun at home. You can have
Exactly.
fun. So were you actually getting food delivered to houses? I mean, what did that look like?
Yes, it was really crazy. Like, it was so exciting because people were so excited, because it's kind of like, they're like, oh my goodness, like, how food can be very exciting.
Food is the
So
best part about a party. Antonia,
yes,
Rav, it's all about
exactly.
jollof rice.
Have they tried jollof rice? Have you made them try?
Oh,
Antonia, I
I'm
believe
I'm
you do make jollof.
I'm
Wow, really?
I don't know that I can. I'm not. My skills are not so much. It's quite difficult to make jollof. But June taught me egusi because
Oh,
actually I particularly. So
She's past my
if
level. She's
June
good.
passes me one day, that's what you need to send my way. Yeah.
Jollof, agusi is her special, and she makes a mean okra.
oh, wow,
Yes.
really? Amazing.
I
She's
have a
good.
Senegalese husband, so I've learned some of the kind of Senegalese versions of these dishes. There's kind of similarities and differences. So
Oh, that's really cool.
The jollof war we will not go
jollof is
into.
hard. Jollof is hard because it's more of a challenge. But I have been taught by some very good jollof chefs. So
That's good.
one day I will aspire to those heights.
I'm yet to try your jollof, Omowumi. We need to
Yes.
arrange that.
I somehow have a feeling that you make it better than me. Actually,
Hey,
I think
no.
so. I think so. I think so.
Oh my
So
goodness. Well, one thing that bonds us is food for sure. We're all foodies. I mean, Rav, I'm constantly hounding her. How do you make that naan? How do you make that chapati? Can you help me? I want to make a curry.
Mm, mm, mm,
We're
mm.
always sharing recipes.
Constantly. Constantly. It's all about food.
Yeah.
Yeah, and changing the kinds of food you need to cook. Like if you start to have a family, and then actually June's always given me some quite good ideas of like stuff to make that will please small people and grown up.
small people, yes.
Yeah.
I always see
It,
all those recipes that you're making, when you're baking. Remember, I'm like,
yeah.
how are you doing this? How can you keep up? Share the recipe
Because
with me.
Oh my goodness. It's all about whatever keeps the peace. Cookies. And now it's puff puff. I finally learned how to make puff puff.
your thing, yeah. I
Love
love
it.
puff.
Oh
You
my goodness.
do? Oh my goodness,
I
really?
have mastered the art of puff puff. Finally.
You
It's the
have to
wrist
make it.
flick, isn't it? Yeah, I made them for you once actually from a YouTube video.
You made it before me. Yeah, she's good. Rav, I feel like you have something similar. It's like a donut, but it's I wouldn't say it's so sweet, but I feel like there's something similar.
So the only donut that I can think of is we put it in syrup.
Mm.
Yeah, I think exactly. Yours is more like a glazed.
Yes, yeah. So
Yes.
it's called a gulab jamun.
That's it. So they look very similar, except I think ours is not as sweet.
Yeah. Wow. Well, that's nice. It's tasty.
It's good. I will share the recipes.
Definitely.
Oh my goodness. Omowumi, to tell me, so you started off with, who was your first customer and how did that come about? So did they hear about what you did for your husband?
So yes, actually, my someone called me because at first I was still trying to figure it out. I felt like I was onto something, to be honest, but I was still kind of like, okay, but how am I gonna do it? You know, we're in lockdown. How am I gonna get around? And then someone called to ask, you know, like how did I do it?
Yeah.
And then I was like, okay, I could walk you through it. And then like 2 days later, someone called again and was like, oh, who was your vendor? And I was like, my vendor? Oh, I was the vendor, you know? So I'm like, oh, I did that, you know? So like, oh yeah, can you help me do this and that? And then I was like, oh wow, okay, you know, I was like, okay, Lord, this is real, you know? And so I sat down and then tried to figure out how it could actually work, you know, had like a couple of conversations and everything. I'm trying to think about who the very first client was. For some reason, I don't remember, but I do remember one, which was, she was either the first or the second, and it was a client from my travel company who was supposed to be going to Mauritius for her 50th, and she had wanted to have a ladies' night. Like one of the nights for her itinerary was a ladies' night. So someone who's really close to her had spoken to me about it, and we're like, you know, why don't we recreate that for her? And literally have all her friends, you know, from everywhere, all over the world, and let them have, you know, what they would have had in Mauritius. So we did that. So they had like a nice tea party, and you know, so we did all the games, and you know, it was really, she had so much fun. She was just like, I never would have thought that was possible. You know, she was like, this meant like the world to me. You know, I thought like it was gone. I thought that because I couldn't go to Mauritius anymore, I didn't get that. Yeah, but you know, just like how we're literally like online together now. It was all of them. They danced, they played games, you know, they prayed for her. Like it was so good. Like even I was like, oh, it was really.
I know. You
Yeah.
brought them together. You made her dream come true. And I think that's what I love about what you do. You are really helping people make that fantasy come true. And I think what a journey to go on to sort of help them visualize it and make it a reality. It must be such a special feeling.
Honestly, it really is. It really is, because you would otherwise think that you can only get that if you're all in the same place. But seeing, like, especially then, seeing how people reacted, you know, just being able to connect with their loved ones, like online, it was really like, it was priceless, to be honest. And even now, when things are still like open, you know, things are different. Like the world has changed. So yeah, you want to go out, you know, fresh air. You can't take that away. You can't take away touch. But the truth is, especially when it comes to everyone all over the world, like being in one place again, like this, you know, we have people who are like, oh yeah, this is really what we want to do. So like right now, the calls are end of year party. Oh, you know, we would have had a big, let's say corporate end of year party. Oh, but we can't. What can you guys do for us virtually? We're like, oh, we can do a lot. We can do a lot of things, you know. And then some of the people, like let's say, a lot of the people who like work in Nigeria, but they're not from Nigeria. They're at home, so, and work is still going on, so they're like, how can we incorporate everyone who's you know, maybe like in England or in America? We still want to have fun. So right now it's the end of the year parties that are booming, and yeah, we look forward to, you know, kind of bringing more life and more hope to many people. So it's actually quite fulfilling, to be honest.
Oh, I love that. That is so inspiring. So inspiring. Antonia, what about you? How has it been? Because you've had quite a big life shift, you know, with the, you know, working at the university. Tell us how has that been? New colleagues and suddenly not being able to see them.
Yeah, I mean, I was new as well. I'd started in the September, and then we went on strike over our pensions in March, and then we were on strike for 3 weeks, and it was kind of like clear that this pandemic was descending on us, and it was really, and there was initially it's really like a sense of crisis. I mean, I went and got all my books, as many books as I could carry, and I brought them home, and the initial phase was one of kind of, I mean, I've got family in Italy, and they locked down just a bit earlier. So my friend said, you better call me, and explained the situation to me. And it was after that phone call that I understood what was happening. So I had a few days of thinking, we're about to go into a lockdown, and this is going to be, that was sort of that frightening phase. And we had a lot of very, I'm a lecturer. So we had just started a new BA program, and we'd done a lot of work kind of building community with our students, but they were really, they really needed us actually. So it was about kind of like grouping as together as teachers, suddenly all online, and, putting in place particular measures. So we had to make lots of really quick, difficult decisions. And we also had to do a lot of work just, I mean, I was WhatsApp videoing students, which normally it's a boundary that I try to, definitely keep in place. But at that moment, it was like an emergency. So I was doing that. And I had my daughter at home, she was, she's under 4. So she was really anxious. I mean, I was doing meetings with my colleagues with a kid on top of me.
Oh my God, I'm sure all of us can relate, the Zoom bombing.
It's amazing that she's not in this meeting, honestly. She's been in every meeting talking about her Play-Doh, about I want snacks. Like, she says more than me in my meetings. It's got really desperate. And I didn't get any childcare again until September.
Wow.
But I did, my husband was furloughed, so he was watching her, but it was really difficult to, I actually was finally at a point where she was getting her 33 hours of nursery provision. So actually I was like actually being able to, pay for a bit more childcare. And I was thinking, oh my God, I've got so much time. And we were about to start working on a book. And I was like, oh my God, it's like, descending on me that I'm not going to get anything done. But actually, it has been very difficult. But I did do a lot of, my really good friend and mentor who I've been working on this book with kind of wrote to the group of us who are we're writing this new group. It's a co-authored book that we're working on based on research that we had done the previous year. So we were really lucky that we didn't get our fieldwork interrupted. Lots of people have basically, their projects have stalled. So we were really lucky because we were at the beginning of the writing phase, and she just wrote to us and she said, look, we're still going to need to read poetry, sing songs, people are still going to need to dance, so let's get on and write this book. So she kind of held us, and she was like, we're going to meet weekly, we're going to send what we've written. So that was like a structure that I had across the summer, that I was working collaboratively on this writing. And I've been really lucky that I have not found like intellectual work to be a really isolating or lonely process. And I know a lot of people do, because I've always had this amazing kind of community of other writers around me doing similar work to me, and we see our work as collaborative. And so that's been good. But I mean, other things like the economic situation's not been great, wider family has really struggled, people have been neglected because we haven't been able to see them. I really, I'm really glad that my daughter's back in nursery, because she seems to really be appreciating it, and I really love silence. I'm not someone that I work whenever I can, wherever I can, and however I can. But what I love is silence, and to be able to look out the window and get up and walk around. Like the kind of work you're doing, I need to really you need to really have space to think things through, and read stuff, and then like meditate on it for a while. And so I have really appreciated just the silence in the house recently. And then obviously we've gone back into a second lockdown in London, so there's been the anxiety of that, and that has in many ways actually it's not been as bad. I mean, it's not been as bad for me because my daughter's still got nursery provision, honestly.
Yes.
For a lot of people, it's really bad right now. And, you know, a lot of my students are stuck in their halls and completely isolated. And, you know, so for some people, it's like, you know, right at the beginning, I turned around to my husband and I said, we've done hard before and we're going to do hard again now. That's it. You know, and
Love
that was
it.
the
Love
attitude
it.
I went, you know, and I was talking about, you know, past struggles that we've had. You know, I think that, you know, that's sort of pulled me through as well. And that, you know, and the other thing that's pulled me through is that the work I do, a lot of people who do academic work have sort of been rushing to put bids in to do work on COVID. And I think that's really great, but I haven't been doing that. But I think it's been interesting to try and think about the ways in which that this context that we're living through actually feeds in as you're doing creative work and you adapt to it within your writing so that's what we've been sort of, it's been informing and sort of being folded in. And, you know, I always, whenever stuff has been hard for me in the past and stuff is hard now, I always hold on to the fact that I really believe I'm doing important work.
Yes.
It's not about me, this work. It's about wider injustices and, you know, inequalities around race, around gender, around class. And, you know, it's about telling stories and like recovering histories of marginalized people and situations. It's sort of not about me. And I always have found that pushes me on to do whatever.
You have hit the nail on the head. And I think if anyone can take something from what we've talked about so far, it's that focusing on helping people, on bringing people joy, on doing things for the greater good. There is something so magical about that feeling. And I guess that brings us nicely on to Rav, who, you know, she's doing something which I am very, very passionate about, you know, the world of STEM and young girls, and it is how does it all tie in by helping them? That sort of motivates us to keep going, and I absolutely love that. Rav, do you want to tell us how this year has been for you?
Oh my gosh, in one word I would say overwhelming.
Oh
it's been absolutely crazy. You know, I start off the year every year with this massive burst of energy. Yeah, this is going to be the best year yet for me. And you come into February and you start hearing about this virus that is, you know, it's taking over the whole world. And you say to yourself, this can't be happening. We're in a film, you know? And then you hit March and it's happened. It's real. And panic strikes with everybody. Every single person around the world has been impacted in some shape or form. And, you know, for me, I don't know about you, but I'm still wearing masks in shops and I'm still thinking that this is unreal. And this is like 6-7 months later. You know, what are we doing here? And this is our life now for the next, 2 years probably. And so I think that when it hits you, you kind of like say to yourself, okay, that's our personal life. What is happening in the business world?
Yes.
And that completely changed overnight. You know, something that myself and June have been working on over the last few years is the need for remote working with businesses. What's the business case that people can work remotely? You don't need to be stuck at a desk anymore.
Yes. Yeah.
And overnight, businesses became remote working operations. All of a sudden, they could do it.
Rav, it was like, you know, banging on the wall and nobody was listening, and now it's possible. It's like, oh, okay.
But I think the crazy thing with that was remote working doesn't suit everybody.
No.
You know, I've talked to so many girlfriends who want to get back to work, who want to talk to people, who, you know, their social life is work. You know, they're getting that exercise. You're sat at a desk at home. No one's doing that health and safety check on you.
No.
You know, you're sitting at a table in the kitchen, or you sat on the sofa. You turned your home into a working office, and it's madness when you think about it all. So for me, working with girls at schools, you know, trying to educate them around STEM and the different types of exciting careers they can get into, that suddenly came to a halt because schools shut their doors. And for me, it was like, I can't get into schools anymore. they're not set up to remotely work. They're not set up to, you know, they panicked too. Yes, Google Classrooms were around for schools who could afford it or knew how to work the technology. But when you're looking at interstate schools, those that aren't doing very, very well, where were they getting their technology from? They didn't.
The kids don't have laptops.
They don't. They were the ones who were getting left behind. So for me, it was like, what can I do to help those kids? And, every headmaster that I called, they were very much like, we're trying to sort out the technology. We don't have, time to talk to you about workshops. So that for me was soul destroying, to think that we can't help these people now. We can't help these young kids, and they're going to be left behind. The other side of the business that I do is working with employers to help women develop their skills so they can move up the career ladder. So again, the shutters came down there because it was like, we're concentrating on, managing our remote teams and making that work. So, for me, it was very, very difficult. It was like, what do I do now? I can't get through to anybody. And the more I went onto social media, the more I started to panic because everybody else was pivoting.
Yes.
I'm like, oh my God, I'm getting left behind. Why is everybody else pivoting and I'm not? So they were challenges, huge challenges for me. And, they put you in that awful state of mind. We talk about mental health. Think about all those people who were going through very similar things, all those entrepreneurs, small businesses who didn't get any furlough. Every one of these people are getting impacted, and that mental health and the bad place that people were going. I dread to think when we start reading the articles about how many people have been affected and what's happening and how are they coming out of COVID. You just wonder how they're coping, because a friendship group like this is what carried me through. Talking to June constantly, talking to my girlfriends constantly. We were helping each other through it. And yes, the technology was there. We all turned to technology. And I think that's the best thing that came out of it. Kids, Netflix. My parents learned how to use WhatsApp. They learned how to use Zoom, and they're in their 80s. And I thought that was brilliant. But, just connecting.
Somewhat of an excess of WhatsApp memes, though, being shared to that generation. I think we can safely say that.
Loads around Trump, for sure.
Yeah.
Glad that's over.
But, it was a very, very difficult time. But for me, it's always, I've got that entrepreneurial mindset. So what can I do? Okay, I use this time. There's not downtime, not relaxing, but what can I do to get my business back on track and start thinking about 6 months from now? So I started to do some more development work on the platform, on Kajigo. Turned it into an online portal, I guess, a digital solution that schools can start using. And now that's what we're doing. We're reaching out to schools. We're going to be running the virtual workshops for young girls, and making it very exciting and fun and engaging through video content, because that's what they want to see. They want to see something that's really fun and engaging for them. The tech world shouldn't be boring. It's exciting. So we're bringing that flavor into the Kajigo app and making it really exciting for them.
I absolutely love that. Apart from, yes, the work side of things, family, what's that been like? How have you all stayed connected? Have you found, that spirit to keep going? And I guess with the kids, how are they doing? It's like, where do we start? They're just messy. They are messy. I am tired of seeing this house looking the way it does.
I've discovered those eraser things that you can put on walls, because Saina, she put red pen all over everywhere in like week 2. And then my landlord came over because, anyway, my landlord came over and I was like, but I've discovered the erasers. But oh my God, the washing up.
The food. We had a cupboard.
The food that was big eaten.
The COVID cupboard has been raided. It's pretty much non-existent. They're constantly hungry.
I mean, my daughter's gone back to nursery with an American accent. And at nursery, they said, she has an American accent. I'm like, yep. They're like, does she watch lots of cartoons? I was like, yep. It's been quite difficult.
Survival, whatever it takes.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. I was saying earlier that I feel that I'm going to need a lot of therapy. And I've seen a couple of people campaign for that. I feel like that's something that sort of feels a bit inaccessible to a lot of people. It is so expensive. And I'm honest, I feel like there's been many other phases in my life where I felt I wanted to access it, but I've never quite been able to. And I think after this experience, a lot of us are just going to need to really let loose on a lot of things. I think we're all trying to keep it together. I certainly feel like I am trying to keep it normal for the kids. And I think that's probably why at the beginning of lockdown, I spent so much energy, and it looked like obviously we were having fun, but I was being very intentional about like making it as lighthearted as possible, like not putting on the news. Like I actually try not to watch too much news if I can help it. Obviously election week was separate, but just protecting them. And I feel like that takes so much energy. And I don't know how you've all felt, with that, just managing that space and keeping it for you.
I felt drained.
Yeah.
I've got grown-up children, so my daughter's 23 and my son is 14. But having a daughter who was sitting her final year at university and being told overnight she had to pack her bags and go home. So I had to deal with her mental health issues because it was like final year, how do we get through exams? Antonia, you talk about online lectures, doing that material, but at the time lecturers didn't have that available to them. They didn't know what they were doing. So, dealing with a child going through that. And then my son, who was an absolute joy, loved working from home, and said to me, can I just be homeschooled for the rest of my life? Because he was so structured. It was amazing. But he didn't have that interaction with his friends. So he'd get up in the morning, do his schoolwork, and then go on to the PlayStation, or Xbox, or the phones. So when you talk about interaction with young kids, it's so important. And we couldn't have our children out of school for so long. We had to get them back into that school environment because it's so important for them to be around the group of children that they see every single day. It's really good for them, isn't it? But the whole situation for me was very, very draining, trying to manage 2 different age groups at home and keeping them active and busy.
And children they're not meant to be somehow. And children aren't meant to be raised by one person or 2 people.
No.
Children are raised by a community of people. It's not actually like, it is the Western family model. It's mum, dad and 2 kids, but actually that's not in how anyone does anything anywhere else. That's not how we've done things historically. Like, it's not a shameful thing to say, I need my kid to be back in school, because actually that is a healthy way of doing things. Like, we raise our children as a community and we support each other as much as we're able to do within the kinds of constraints that we have around our working days, around how much stuff costs, around where family members are more widely. But there's been a lot of shaming, hasn't there, of parents saying, I need my kid back in school, oh, you don't, why did you have kids, kind of thing. And that's so unnecessary. How human society works.
Exactly. It does take a village. And I think of my childhood, and Omowumi, I'm sure you relate as well, just being in and out of relatives' homes. I actually couldn't tell the difference. For me, it was just, going to my auntie's house was just like being at home. I would turn up and, we wouldn't bring our bags with us, but we'd just be like, we're not going home. And you just stay. Mommy, I'm sure you had the same experience. You just turn up. It's open door policy in Lagos. You don't even announce before you turn up to anyone's house. Just like ring the doorbell, horn at the gate, and just turn up for lunch. Can you cook me some food?
Yeah.
I do miss that. I mean, but your kids have been home, right? School's not open in Lagos.
So preschool is not open. Actually, I take that back. They opened last week. But it's a bit hard. Like, so year 1, they started, I want to say like 4 weeks ago. So my son actually went back to school, and honestly, I was just like, go. Go.
Bye.
I mean, the scary bit is,
I love it.
Like, how are they regulating things? How are they actually how careful is the school being? But luckily he's going to a small school, so I was like, you know what, it's okay. At
Yeah.
first it was online and physical, and I literally told the school, I can't deal. Like, I need
Yes.
him to go to school. Like, I can't, because the online bit of things was so hectic. I had to
Yes.
sit with him.
Mhm.
I was just like, no, because he's 5. So I was just like, no, I need him to go to school, please. So if anyone says, oh, your kids, you have kids, you should be with them. I'm honestly just like, look, they need to go to school, okay?
Yes.
There's a reason for school.
Yes.
Like Antonia said, it's really true. And I think one of the things during the lockdown, though, that affected me was I felt really guilty because sometimes I just wanted my peace. Like, I just really did.
Yes.
And I felt like I needed to make it count for them. So I know, like, June, like, you totally inspired me because I'm like, oh, the kids, they're doing this today, they're doing that. I'm like, oh, let's go try that. So I
Oh.
actually tried baking. Remember, I asked for a recipe. I tried that.
Yeah.
But still, I just wanted my peace. So
Yes.
I had a schedule, and I was like, okay, so we'll bake in the morning, and then, we'll do this, and then we'll do that, and then we'll have some, alone time.
Space.
If possible, because you say alone time, but
Oh
it doesn't
yeah.
really happen.
Oh yeah. I know. I'm
Yeah,
like, here's the device. Have fun.
exactly. Go and have fun. They're like, oh no, no screen time, limit screen time. I'm like, what? Who are you gonna kill? No, please.
Yes. Yes, the screen time. Yes, the screen
Like,
time. there's good
Anticipation.
screen time.
Yes. I mean, really, I mean, I had to sort of physically remove myself from the house, really, to be able to
Yes.
to be alone,
any
right?
kind of me time. So, I mean, I started running,
Right.
which I loved, actually. I mean, I find it really difficult to run. Like, seems to not be what my body was made to do, but
I
I
can't
still
run
do
to
it.
save my life, don't worry.
Yeah. And then I would do a bit of yoga, because if I don't stretch after running, then my whole body seizes up. So I would stop, I would do yoga and some stretching, and then I just would feel so good. So that really helped me, because obviously the way this pandemic has been going, I mean, a lot of people have said it, that, it's really up and down in terms of your mood. And I was doing the
Yes.
whole therapy process that I had nothing to do with the pandemic, that I'd sort of started actually just before everything happened in March. So I was actually really lucky that I had some weekly somebody on Zoom. But even that was very difficult to do, because obviously everyone was on top of me in the house, So anyway, we found a way through. And so, that was a really important learning process, because I'm sort of like, I think I'm all clever in that, and like I can understand anything. But actually it's important, because it's a very different way of thinking about yourself, positioning yourself within situations, different kinds of accountability.
Yes.
So, and I tend to approach things very intellectually, because I've been trained really to do that. But that I think the hardest thing is actually to figure out where you're feeling things in your body, and how that's I'm not saying that I figured any of that stuff out, but I did understand a lot of things. And so, for me, actually, I was on this sort of journey, as well as everything else. I mean, and that's wonderful. And so that's ended now. But, I think I'm lucky that I had that, because people are struggling to access support, and people don't know actually how many low cost options there are. That might be an app or something. I don't know about apps, but, actually, because it's very localized, these kinds of support, and your ability to access things is very limited depending on where you live. So, that's definitely therapy is something I've been thinking about a lot, and I think is really really an important thing. I mean, I think there's different ways of doing therapy, and of basically actually taking responsibility for how you're feeling a lot of the time, and not in a harsh way, but like at the end of the day, there's certain processes that only you can go through in order to like mend particular ways of relating to things, and so yeah. And I like to push myself, I think.
Do you know what surprised me? I watched an Oprah interview where she was interviewing Mariah, and it turned out, obviously, I'm sure everyone knows Oprah's story, and she said she hadn't been to therapy. And I was so shocked, because I just assumed, because obviously we assume that an obstacle is money. But she said she just sort of had her therapy through her shows. So all her guests and talking to them had been her therapy. She was interviewing Mariah, and if you read her book, I'm currently listening to her audiobook, and she talks about sort of all her trauma as a child and how she's carried that through, and she's having to really unlearn so many things, and how so much betrayal in her family, you know, down to her own brother and sister, her blood brother and sister, how they've, you know, used her as a bank account and just made her not feel worthy of their love, because they thought she, you know, was, I guess, special because she's lighter than all of them, and they just projected so much hate onto her. And like she said, therapy saved her, and she's still working through a lot of things. And I just think if I hadn't met my coach at the beginning of lockdown, I don't know as well if I would be where I am today. Just having, again, that structured conversation with someone who's not in your immediate circle, where you can just be so vulnerable. And again, back to vulnerability, I think in this time we were all putting on this brave face, but trust me, there's many times where I just want to go in the cupboard and just hide. I've thought about it a lot. You know, just there's so much going on, so much to process, and going back to being still and having time to reflect and just take it all in. That it's like this mountain of lava has been thrown on us, and we're just like brushing it off.
Pushing through.
Oh my God, it's intense. It's intense, and Lord knows I'm looking forward to 2021, to all the parties. What are you looking forward to? I mean, what is that thing that's keeping you sort of focused and excited? Rav, I feel like you want to say something.
Oh my gosh, holiday.
Yes.
Fun.
Yes.
Get some of that vitamin D.
Yeah.
I do you know what? I'm just waiting for some kind of normal.
Yeah.
I just think
a hug. I want to give you a
hug. Yeah, complete hug. Yeah, but do you know, it's just, you know, for me, I love going into London. Just being able to hop onto a train and just do those normal things that we just nice about. Get onto a tube, go and walk somewhere without someone telling you can't do it. Whereas now we're being told, we're being restricted, aren't we? And I think that's what I find very, very difficult, those restrictions, when we live in this free society and we're just being held back at the moment. So I just want it to pass so quickly. And I'm just hoping that, you know, December 31st for us.
Yes.
Find us and we can just move forward.
Same. What about you, Mommy? What are you looking forward to?
I think just things just being normal. Like, honestly, it's almost as though, I mean, this sounds so weird, but it's almost as though I've stopped dreaming like big. Right now, I just crave like normalcy. Like, I'm just like, when can we just be normal? You know?
Yes.
When can we just go out? And I mean, there's a lot of going out. People are eating and, you know, doing all of that, but it's just not the same, you know? So even for the kids, I'm like, okay, when can I take them out? Because before we used to have, like, let's say every Sunday or every other Sunday, we would go out and we'd eat or something, and then they would play. But you know, now you just can't do that anymore.
No.
Because, you know, you can't be in,
there's
like,
nowhere to go. There's literally, apart from the park.
Exactly.
Really, where can we take them?
Yeah, I mean, so I think I'm just looking for things to just, I mean, although I have to tell you, I don't know if this is good or bad, but in Lagos, there's not a lot of caution with regards
I heard.
yeah, like right now you go out, people are not wearing their masks, you know, and it's actually kind of tough being like, you know, kind of the one who's like being cautious, you know what I mean? Like,
Yes.
people have, it's like, as far as they're concerned, it doesn't exist, you know, because
Wow.
we've been really lucky, so to speak. I mean, whether it's because the numbers aren't being reported or because of our immune system, whatever, I really don't know. But as far as a lot of people are concerned, it's not really real. And
Wow.
so for the people who think it's real, it's kind of like, no, it's really real. Like, it's real, guys,
Yes.
it's real,
Yeah.
you know. So I'm looking forward to everyone being on the same page, like it just not existing anymore.
Absolutely.
You know, and definitely holidays. Like, honestly, I run a travel company, and even just trying to get people out, you have to take a test before you're traveling. You have to take a test when you're coming
Yeah.
back. You know, if you're going from one city to another, you have to take a test. I mean, it's just like seriously. So
The
I'm like,
admin.
I'm not going anywhere soon. I mean, even if I'm going, I'm gonna go by myself because I'm like, am I gonna take my kids through all
Yeah.
that, you know? So honestly, I'm just like, okay, a good holiday with normal life
Yes.
would be amazing.
I love that. Love that. What about you,
Yeah.
Antonia? What is your big hope for the next couple of months?
Oh, the next couple of months.
Next
Um,
year? Like
next
we're
year,
in
next couple of
November.
months
We're
about
in
surviving
November. I can't
me.
believe we're in
I
November.
need to get
So
to the end of term. Okay, I agree with you all. I have not prioritized in the last few years. I've been really busy building my my career basically, and I haven't been on enough holidays. I haven't spent
yeah.
enough time with my wider family in Italy and in Senegal, and I don't know how I'm going to make it happen financially, but I will be
Yeah.
spending time with people, and you know, just in different places with sun shining on me, definitely. So that's something that I've really really been thinking about. But in many ways, I also, you know, don't want to return to normality, and I don't want to return to normality without quite a number of serious questions being asked
Yeah.
about how this has all been managed. I don't want to return to normality without us really thinking about, you know, the really appalling disparities that have come out
Yes.
and have been made visible by this pandemic, you know, that around race, around class. So, you know, my experience is that, you know, overcoming difficult things is a kind of gesture of solidarity. And I hope that people will be, you know, joining me in this kind of questioning, you know, like in some ways, you know, the political scene might be, there's a lot of room for leeway next year. And so, but, you know, I think we need to keep really, really conscious and active. So I don't want to return to normality because it was normal conditions that led to things going the way that they did
Yeah.
personally. So it'd be a
Yeah.
real downer on the situation. But for me, struggle is hope. So I don't feel like I'm hopefully not destroying the mood. My students keep telling me that in my lectures are making them depressed. So it could
Oh
be that I'm making everyone in the room miserable. They're like, oh, it was all about disease last week. And I'm like, yeah, I'm sorry about that. I thought
no.
you'd find it pretty relevant to the situation. They're like, I feel really down. So anyway, I try not to do that. So yeah, that's what I want for 2021. Yeah.
Absolutely. I think, yeah, for me, it's that sense of togetherness, which I get where you're coming from. You know, for me, I loved when we did the clap for the NHS, where everyone came out and stood outside. It was just that sense of solidarity. I hope we don't lose that, because I felt that this has brought many people together at the very least on that very human level. And I hope we retain some of that. Back to the class thing, I know that's very prevalent in Nigeria with that massive divide in class. And I think things like NSARS has brought people together and sort of removed that. And I hope that we retain some of that feeling of what it was like to act as one, to remove all those unnecessary layers that we put. End of the day, we're all humans, and I hope that that connectedness sort of finds a way to carry on into the next generations. I hope our children have witnessed that and absorbed it and remember that part of it. We don't want them to remember any of the loneliness, but hopefully some sense of togetherness, how we all sort of pulled through. But if each of you were to give a gift to someone, and what would you say to anyone who is you know, struggling through this time, may have lost that sense of connectedness? What would you say to them?
I would say don't feel that you're alone. You know, there are so many people out there in the world who want to be there to help you, to hold your hand. You're never alone. You know, someone is always here to help you and carry your hand and, you know, help you through it, help you through the dark days and help you through the tough times. So regardless of whether, you know, you live on your own, you've lost a job, you know, you're a one-parent family, you know, a lot of people don't feel that they've got any hope left at the moment.
Yes.
it's really difficult times, especially with Christmas coming up. Everyone who's going to be losing their jobs now, Christmas is going to be a really, really tough time for people. But don't ever feel alone. And I just think, you know, there's so many networks out there, so many networks that are full of supportive people.
Yes.
Go out and connect with people.
I love that. Rav, Mommy, what would you say? I mean, even if it's something that's cheered you up, or what's your go-to to get back on track? Because you're a shining example of someone who's really got back on track.
Say be patient with yourself, because a lot of people aren't patient with themselves. You know, we're constantly worrying about missing out, worrying about being stagnant, worrying about you know, if we're doing the right thing and when and what and why, you know, all of that. And it's just kind of like, just, it's not like, first of all, life is most important right now, but then after that, like, just take it easy, like, be patient, just be okay knowing that everything is going to be fine, you know, really at the end of the day, because it actually will be. I mean, there's a lot going on, but just take it all one day at a time. You know, wherever you find yourself, just be patient. You know, with the kids, just be patient. Are you doing enough as a mom? Be patient. You know, do you feel like you should be out, you know, feeding? Like, there's so much pressure. It's just so much pressure. You know, am I growing? Am I not growing? You know, am I being left behind? Am I ahead? Am I, you know, so many things. Just be patient, you know.
Love
So
that. Love that. Antonia.
I guess what I would say is very similar. You know, yes, there will be a time beyond this moment. There will be. We know that. We know that historically, you know, there will be a time beyond this. And, you know, somebody I think about a lot, this is a very similar comment, but it's drawing from this anthropologist, this academic who wrote, she's called Nancy Shepherd Hughes, and she wrote a book called Death Without Weeping. And it was about women who'd lost their children, whose children had died, and how they coped with the grief of that in Brazil. So she spent a lot of time with these women, and she wrote about the process of trying to write this really difficult stuff into a book. And she said in the end, you know, and there was so many difficult things for her because she felt like that she had so much privilege compared to them, and how could she do justice to their experiences, and how could she try and understand it, not being in their shoes. And that's kind of the work that I do as well. And I always found her ideas really influential. And what she says is that it's important to just try and do good enough. And I think that is what we need to take with us, that, you know, it's really bloody difficult. And it's, sorry, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear. You can edit me. This is a really difficult moment, and there will be a time beyond this moment, and there are people that are really struggling, and there are people who aren't making it as well, and, you know, it's terrifying. But, you know, if you can think that you just need to be doing good enough every day, then maybe that takes some of the pressure off, and, you know, allows you kind of some measure of peace, and some kind of, you know, to retain a sense of integrity about what you're doing with yourself, you know, that, you know, however, whatever you've managed to do in that day, you've done good enough for that day, you've done good enough for you. So that's what I have been saying to my students, and that's what I would say here. Yeah.
Oh, you ladies, how lucky am I? I'm sure I made everyone jealous with my incredible friends. You have been such an inspiration. Your words have touched me. You touch me every single day. All of you who, wow, those words. I just feel very blessed to have you in my life. So thank you so much for joining me. Thank you for sharing your words of wisdom with everyone. How can people find you? Rav, you want to go first? What's the best way for people to reach out to you if they want to follow up?
I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and LinkedIn at Rav Bumbra. So just connect with me on those platforms.
Amazing. Omowumi.
I'm on Instagram as well at Omowumi Etiko company, at the Vardy, at nuSafiri. Any one of those platforms, I'm there.
And Antonia.
Okay, so I have a profile at my institution that I work at King's College London. So if you know, Google my name and put King's College London, you'll find me there, and my contact details there. I'm on Twitter at Antonia Lucia, that's Lucia, and I've got a Linktree site thing, which I'm sure June can link to you. I'm getting there with the stuff. Anyway, I'm enjoying tweeting. I'd love to hear from you on Twitter. And
brilliant. Well, I will add all your details to the show notes. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope you enjoyed the episode. As my son has reminded me, please subscribe and please share with anyone who you feel will enjoy the episode. Thank you so much. Bye. Please remember to leave a comment, subscribe, and share with friends. Thanks for listening.